Now, some current events we need to get into. It's a lot of things that went down that I didn't cover, so I'm gonna get into it. And the copyright disclaimer under the Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. First thing, now I really don't know why this R. Kelly's state attorney Steve Greenberg kind of made these predictions on the case kind of so early, like publicly like this. But when you look at it from the perspective of how they talk about it, it makes you feel like R. Kelly ain't got a chance in hell. And this is coming from his lawyer, which is kind of crazy. But I think that with all the evidence that we've been seeing as far as these women's testimony, I think that part of the charge he's going to have a problem with. As far as this, the tape and all that other stuff, I don't know about this tape because they ain't got the
Nugents
original
are
one.
paying more with family budget.
But I want to get into this interview. And y'all tell me what y'all think. Let me see.
Brad Edwards, thank you for joining us here in CBS in Chicago. The Stream. On Tuesday, evidence to prove the singer enticed underage girls for sex and even produced child pornography. Court proceedings resume Thursday when the defense's first witnesses take the stand. Here to talk about where the case stands, what we can expect from here, is a defense attorney, one of our friends of the Stream, Steve Greenberg. Steve, it is a note here. You also have and currently are still representing R. Kelly involving the state case here that is still pending, have repped him since 2018. You're keeping a close eye on this one. The first 2 weeks, of course, the U.S. attorney and the federal government laid out a pretty damning case. What are your thoughts on it so far?
Well, I don't think the case has gone as well as the federal government assumed it would go. You know, there's a couple of different components to this case. There's the manufacture or production of child pornography, which involves 3 videotapes. There's a 4th videotape, but it doesn't exist. They haven't been able to produce it. They haven't been able to find it. On those, they actually have the videotape to produce. Young lady on the videotape came to court and said, "That's me on the videotape." So those charges against R. Kelly are troubling, and probably he probably won't be able to overcome those. But then there's the other aspects. There's the obstruction of justice counts. Some of them deal with preventing witnesses from cooperating in the earlier state court prosecution. And with those, I think the government's witnesses were not so good. They didn't come forward and say, hey, they paid me to not do this. In fact, they said that, well, we were friends. He was my godfather. He took care of me because he loved me. And then there's some other counts involving some other minors. And again, the witnesses on those counts, I don't think were very convincing, based on the tweets that I read in the newspaper articles. Sort of what the government found out here is that the people that were involved in this case were not their normal white collar witnesses. And anytime I think the feds get involved in what's more akin to street crime or 26 in California stuff, sometimes the witnesses get beat up a bit more than they thought they would.
Defense is now going to come in, and he's got some dogged defense attorneys in the federal case. R. Kelly does. How do you overcome what, by all accounts, is the damning video evidence that some say clearly shows an R. Kelly having sex with clearly underage girls? How do you even begin to overcome that in defense of him?
I don't know, quite frankly, that they can, and I don't know that they're really going to try to do that. I think that it has always been somewhat conceded that the jury was going to see this video, and I don't know that anyone's taking the position that it's not R. Kelly. In the state prosecution, in the 2008 trial, the quality of the video that was used was not as good as the quality of the video that they're using in this case. Back then, it was much harder to tell that it was R. Kelly, and the young lady in the video did not come forward and say, that's me in the video. In fact, she had given statements saying it wasn't her in the video. Now she says she lied back then. It is her in the video. Her mother also came to court and said it's her in the video. So, sometimes you can't get anywhere with a certain count on a case. That might be the case here. And the question is just, what can you do to mitigate the overall damage in the bigger picture?
So that what it may be looking at now. Of course, Mr. Kelly, your client in the state case, is facing decades in prison already for a conviction in New York. Kind of play this out, get into the weeds for me here. He faces similar charges, except on basically that he bribed the witness in a former trial. He subverted justice, but it's basically similar. The worst crimes are similar to what he's already been convicted of in federal court in New York. If he were to be found guilty, wouldn't these be served concurrently? Wouldn't they be served at the same time? What's the
That's up to
government's
the
game
judge,
here?
Brad. That's completely up to the judge. In any federal case, the judge has the discretion to make things concurrent or consecutive. Look, on the New York case, he got 30 years. He's going to be 81 or 82 years old when he gets out of jail. If he has to serve all of that time, maybe he'll be in his late 70s. I doubt if the 85-year-old judge in this case would pile on to that. Here's a man who has lost everything professionally and everything personally. As far as the charges, I think the charges here are frankly different than the charges there. The charges there were the actual sex acts themselves that were charged. The sex acts aren't charged here. What's charged here is the filming of the sex acts. And it's maybe a semantical difference, but it is a difference.
Okay, duly noted on those differences. And another question for you. You will defend R. Kelly, are continuing to serve as his defense attorney in the state cases. There is a state case here that is ongoing, and they're could potentially be a state case that is brought in Minnesota, depending a lot on what likely happens in this federal case. I mean, a question for you is, have you had any contact with Mr. Kelly? Does R. Kelly ever believe he will one day be free, exonerated, or not be in a courtroom facing some type of charge or allegation?
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Tesla? Supercharge your future with Allset Auto.
You know, he's got very good lawyers. You said they're dogged lawyers. We like to think that we're dogged lawyers and we fight hard for our clients. Mike Leonard and I, who were on the New York case until some people got in Robert's ear, we were absolutely convinced we were going to win that case, in which case he would not be facing 30 years now. Absolutely convinced that we would prevail on the state court cases. I've looked at the evidence. I understand what's involved. I understand the allegations. And as far as the appeal of the New York case, it's very interesting because what they did was they took a bunch of small acts that weren't really, you know, they were illegal, but they weren't the crime of the century. Usually when you've got a racketeering case, you've got a gang or the mob, and they've said the gang has committed 7 murders and 3 kidnappings, and they've been selling kilos of drugs and so on and so forth. With Kelly's case, what they said was he didn't disclose to someone he had herpes. That's a misdemeanor. He got a fake ID for someone. That's a misdemeanor. They took all these relatively minor things and blew them up into a RICO case. And then the government only asked for 20 years and the judge gave him 30. There are a whole host of, and I won't bore everyone with the nitty-gritty, but of good appellate issues on the New York case. And I frankly believe that if the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has any courage, they will do the right thing and they will overturn that verdict and say that this is a gross abuse of the racketeering laws. It's not what was intended. What they're doing in a lot of these cases, Brad, if I can pontificate for a minute, is they're going back in time and they're trying to apply 2022 or 2020 outlooks and values to things that happened long ago. It happened, and I know I'll take a lot of heat for this, but it happened to Weinstein, it happened to Bill Cosby, it's happening to R. Kelly. And I think it's unfair. I think that looking at things with hindsight, you know, there was a time when women weren't allowed to vote. There was a time when African Americans weren't allowed to mingle with white people. We now know that all of that was wrong, but we're not going back and criminally charging people for those kinds of acts. And I understand it's different, but you're going back and you're applying today's values and the way we look at things today to things that happened decades ago when not only Kelly looked at it differently, but the alleged victims looked at it differently, their parents looked at it differently, everyone's friends looked at it differently. And that's really, you know, this is the greatest hindsight prosecution that I've ever seen.
It is noted that many do think there are some appealable issues in the New York case, but you know, and I appreciate what you're saying, but it's really, you know, unarguable that R. Kelly is seen having sex with a minor that he taped.
Right.
It doesn't matter how old the video is. I mean,
No. I'm distinguishing that from the rest of the case. But the other stuff, the obstruction, they've known about that stuff for years. There's a very good statute of limitations argument that the defendants have raised that the obstruction was complete when the 2008 trial came back with its verdict. And that now to prosecute him for the obstruction violates the statute of limitations. Look, I'm never going to say having sex with a 14-year-old is okay. And I think that had they just sought to prosecute him for that, maybe there wouldn't have been a need for a trial. But they're really piling on with this guy, all because of this documentary And what happened in this case was some of the witnesses, in this case, in the New York case, came right out and said, we lied in the documentary. Things weren't what we said in the documentary. It's really an unfair prosecution on many levels. Has he done things wrong? Yes. Did he violate the law? Yes. Should he never have had sex with the 14-year-old? Yes. Should he never have filmed it? Yes. Should he be prosecuted for that? Yes. And frankly, he would have been much better off in hindsight had he lost the 2008 trial.
That's an interesting point. And, R. Kelly, his supporters and his defenders, you being his defense attorney, will say this is definitely a case of piling on federal charges, RICO charges, like you said, in New York. Now, the different charges here, federal charges here, then potentially state charges here, then potentially state charges in Minneapolis.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
And Brad, New York had nothing to do with any of this. If you look at the New York charges, there was one time he had sex with someone in New York who was an adult, but he didn't disclose that he had herpes. That was the connection to New York. Everything else in that case took place in Illinois, California, Florida, New Jersey. It had nothing to do with them.
Yeah. Once again, Steve Greenberg, R. Kelly's defense attorney in the state case. The key question here, with all the charges that he's facing, really anyone who's been in the courtroom says it comes down to the videotapes. And videotapes clearly show an older R. Kelly having sex with clearly underage girls. Is there any way the defense is going to be able to lay out a case that overcomes that video evidence?
The only way that he's getting out of those charges, and he was in his 20s at the time, is if the jurors are the world's biggest R. Kelly fans and they just want to cut him a break. I mean, in all honesty, I don't know there's a way around those charges, given the video which I've watched and the testimony that they now have. But the rest of it, he's got a fighting chance, and his co-defendants have a fighting chance.
Yeah. So you will then, when do you come back into the fold? Will you come back into the fold automatically, or I know the state case is ongoing now, but do you expect a decision will be made to go forward or not with the state case, depending on what happens in this second federal trial?
We were in court this morning on the state case, and the judge raised that very question. I think the answer to that question is up to Kim Foxx and what she wants to do after she sees what happens in the federal trial. We have raised some double jeopardy issues in relation to the state prosecution because some of it is duplicitous with the federal case, but there's 4 cases and they're not all duplicitous. So that lays at the feet of Kim Foxx if she wants to go ahead and with those cases.
Will there be any double jeopardy issues if he is convicted now in the federal case on what he was exonerated in 2008 in the state case, or will there be no appealable issue there?
So there's a doctrine called the separate sovereign doctrine. Defense attorneys, we all hate it. The Supreme Court looked at it a couple of years ago and left it in place. The separate sovereign doctrine says that the federal government is a different government than every state government. So it's as if the federal government is a different country than from the states. You can be prosecuted in state court and prosecuted for the same thing in federal court. That's why you saw Derek Chauvin in Minnesota get prosecuted on the George Floyd thing, or they get prosecuted in state court, they get prosecuted in federal court. You've seen that with the Breonna Taylor case in Atlanta, where they get a civil rights. It's a little bit different charge, and the Supreme Court has said as long as there's that little difference, it's permissible.
Yeah, you see it in a lot of cases now with a murder charge examples in state cases, like you said, and then like the federal hate crime statute. So Steve Greenberg, we appreciate your insight. We will have you on in the next couple of weeks, friend of the stream. R. Kelly's defense attorney in the state case now. I've been defending him since.
It's a lot of stuff that he said in that interview that I wanted to build on, but I didn't want to stop it in the middle of it. But let me see what it was. Let me see.
To serve as a defense attorney in the state cases. There is a state case here that is ongoing, and there could potentially be a state case that is brought in Minnesota, depending a lot on what likely happens in this federal case. I mean, a question for you is, have you had any contact with Mr. Kelly? Does R. Kelly ever believe he will one day be free, exonerated, or not be in a courtroom facing some type of charge or allegation?
You know, he's got very good lawyers. You said they're dogged lawyers. We like to think that we're dogged lawyers and we fight hard for our clients. Mike Leonard and I, who were on the New York case until some people got him in Robert's here, we were absolutely convinced we were going to win that case. The case he would not be facing 30 years now. Absolutely convinced that we would prevail on the state court cases. I've looked at the evidence. I understand what's involved. I understand the allegations. And as far as the appeal of the New York case, it's very interesting because what they did was they took a bunch of small acts that weren't really, you know, they were illegal, but they weren't the crime of the century. Usually when you've got a racketeering case, you've got a gang or the mob, and they said the gang has committed 7 murders and 3 kidnappings, and they've been selling kilos of drugs and so on and so forth. With Kelly's case, what they said was he didn't disclose to someone he had herpes. That's a misdemeanor. He got a fake ID for someone. That's a misdemeanor. They took all these relatively minor things and blew them up.
That was the thing right there. When you look at it, and you look at, like, in New York, he got sentenced in New York for 30 years. The only case that happened in New York was the chick, I forgot her name, that said he gave her herpes. That's the only thing that happened in New York. He had sex with a chick and supposedly gave her herpes, which, like he said, is a misdemeanor. That is the only thing that happened in New York. And he got 30 years. Everything else he's happened in Illinois, as far as like the Azriels and them being at his crib, or California, Azriel traveling with him. But he got sentenced in the state of New York because a chick said that he gave her herpes. And that's how he got the case in New York. And everything else. He got 30 years. Really? For herpes. Because like he said, the racketeering, I mean, the RICO, you know, it wasn't several murders. It wasn't no drugs being sold, this, that, and the other. If New York, the New York case gave him 30 years, technically he got 30 years for herpes. And they tacked on all the other stuff because none of that happened in New York. And who's to say that he gave her herpes? She could have had it. All these witnesses wasn't being honest in this case.
Into a RICO case, and then the government only asked for 20 years, and the judge gave them 30. There are a whole host of, and I won't bore everyone with the nitty-gritty, but of good appellate issues on the New York case. And I frankly believe that if the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has any courage, they will do the right thing and they will overturn that verdict and say that this is a gross abuse of the racketeering laws. It's not what was intended. What they're doing in a lot of these cases, Brad, if I can pontificate for a minute, is they're going back in time and they're trying to apply 2022.
This is what I want to talk about. Listen closely to what he's saying right here and think of what he's saying on a broader scope. Take R. Kelly out of this situation when you listening to this, right? This is like it ain't where people are justifying R. Kelly's, fetish for young women and stuff like that. Nobody's saying. Everybody, I think for the most part, we all are agreeing with that, he shouldn't have been dating no 14-year-old, period. And I know a lot of us say, the parents, put their kids up to it, they groomed them into it, this, that, and other. He should have known better. At the end of the day, he wouldn't have got set up if, he didn't go for the bait, right? But Steve Greenberg is about to say right now is deeper on a whole nother level, right? And I'll get my train of thought back once he say what he say. But when he referred to how they got Bill Cosby and Harvey and stuff by going back on charging people for what they did morally wrong 20 years ago. That's what he's saying. Like they going back and charging people for stuff that they did that was wrong morally 20 years ago and legally, don't get me wrong, right? But he's saying, it's a different time. So with him saying that, shouldn't we be able to go back and hit certain families for RICO, for slavery, and like hit them for segregation? Shouldn't it be laws, like civil laws, that we shouldn't have never been separated, white people and black people? Like, can we go back 20, 30 years? Like, can we charge them people now that had us segregated and hit them with RICO for those type of charges? Can we go back to those times and charge them for the wrong? That shit was wrong. They shouldn't have separated us. We shouldn't have been slaves. So why can't we go back and charge like the government or the cities or the states that has segregation and things like that? Why we can't go back and do that? This is where he's like, they going back, they locking people up for things that they did morally back 20 years ago when they wasn't who they are today. You know what I'm saying? And if that is the case, then why they can't go back and pull a RICO on like the Ku Klux Klan for all the fucking murders they did, burning our houses and this, that, and other? Like, why they just can't go pull a RICO on the whole Ku Klux Klan or whatever chapters that's left? They should be responsible for what they forefathers did. Like, right? Like if you bought slaves, like we should go back and be able to lock the people up that bought slaves. They was trafficking. Wasn't they trafficking the people that was taking slaves from different places and selling them? Ain't that human trafficking? Why we can't go back and lock up some of these people that was doing human trafficking? Ain't that RICO? Right? Selling slaves. They still got little posters and stuff like that. Why, if they could go back and lock people for like Bill Cosby for what the hell he did 25 years ago, when that was the lifestyle, preludes and stuff, just like today, these kids doing Molly, like what is it? The fucking city girls are making a stallion. Somebody could come and say, "Oh man, this nigga gave me a Molly and raped me." 20 years late, 20 years from now, they can say they had sex with one of these rappers and they all was getting high on pills. And now they could turn around and say, yo, oh, nah, he took advantage of me. Right?
Arbitrary laws is not what was intended. What case, and I frankly believe that if the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has any courage, they will do the right thing and they will overturn that verdict and say that this is a gross abuse of the racketeering laws. It's not what was intended. What they're doing in a lot of these cases, Brad, if I can pontificate for a minute, is they're going back in time and they're trying to apply 2022 or 2020 outlooks and values to things that happened long ago. It happened, and I know I'll take a lot of heat for this, but it happened to Weinstein, it happened to Bill Cosby, it's happening to R. Kelly. And I think it's unfair. I think that looking at things with hindsight, there was a time when women weren't allowed to vote. There was a time when African Americans weren't allowed to mingle with white people.
Now, shouldn't women be able to go back and have a class action lawsuit that they couldn't vote? Right? We know that ain't right today. Right? That ain't right. So why is it not why women can't go right now and all women get reparations because they didn't have the right to vote? That wasn't morally right. That wasn't fair. They're human. You telling me only men can vote? That's not fair. So if they could go back and charge him with something they charged him with already that he beat, right? Shouldn't we be able to go back and indict the Ku Klux Klan for RICO, slave traders for human trafficking? Shit, whoever killed the goddamn Indians, right? Laws have changed. Yeah, those was the laws right back then. The laws have changed. The laws said that the stuff that R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and Harvey Weinstein, I don't think the laws that they got charged with today are the same laws that applied back when these women said accused them of this stuff. Some of them might still be the same, some of them not. But like in R. Kelly's case, a girl said he gave her herpes in New York State. And he got 30 years in New York State. because everything else happened outside of New York. That's a misdemeanor.
We now know that all of that was wrong, but we're not going back and criminally charging people for those kinds of acts. Apply 2022 or 2020 outlooks and values to things that happened long ago. It happened, and I know I'll take a lot of heat for this, but it happened to Weinstein, it happened to Bill Cosby, it's happening to R. Kelly. And I think it's unfair. I think that looking at things with hindsight, there was a time when women weren't allowed to vote. There was a time when African Americans weren't allowed to mingle with white people. We now know that all of that was wrong, but we're not going back and criminally charging people for those kinds of acts. And I understand it's different, but you're going back and you're applying today's values and the way we look at things today to things that happened decades ago when not only Kelly looked at it differently, but the alleged victims looked at it differently, their parents looked at it differently, everyone's friends looked at it differently. And that's really, this is the greatest hindsight prosecution that I've ever seen.
It is noted that many do think there are some appealable issues in the New York case, but and I appreciate what you're saying, but it's really unarguable that R. Kelly is seen having sex with a minor that he taped.
Right.
It doesn't matter how old the video is. I mean,
no. I'm distinguishing that from the rest of the case. But the other stuff, the obstruction, they've known about that stuff for years. There's a very good statute of limitations argument that the defendants have raised that the obstruction was complete when the 2008 trial came back with its verdict. And that now to prosecute him for the obstruction violates the statute of limitations. Look, I'm never going to say having sex.
And that's clear. That is double jeopardy. But being that, like, if you found not guilty for that in 2008 and they charging him on it again right now, the only thing that's not making it double jeopardy is state and federal. But it's like, y'all took me to court on that and I won. So you tell me now the feds, the state, man, y'all niggas is whack. Nah, give us a shot, man. Let us fight that nigga, man. This nigga knocked you out, state, man. I mean, let's put Floyd Mayweather in there. Sammy Sosa out of state got knocked out. Bow. Nah, man. Nah, you gotta fight my big brother now. You gotta fight my big brother. That's what this is like. This shit is crazy, dog. Let me see. It was something else in the beginning that he said.
That the jury was going to see this video, and I don't know that anyone's taking the position that it's not R. Kelly. In the state prosecution, in the 2008 trial, the quality of the video that was used was not as good as the quality of the video that they're using in this case. Back then, it was much harder to tell that it was R. Kelly, and the young lady in the video did not come forward and say, that's me in the video.
Now, right there. This is where something is weird, right? Because he's saying the first tape, it was all grainy, whatever. You can't really tell it was R. Kelly. Where they get that copy from? And how you get a better copy almost 30 years later? What? What? Y'all had to enhance the digital quality on it. Y'all had to do something. If you had the original tape and it was grainy, which is VHS, how is it clearer today? I've been dealing with media for a very long time. That will make that whatever video they watching now is not authenticated. It is not the original. You can't take an old 8mm grainy joint and then make it look high def. You probably can now with some programs like people can with filters, like take pictures and put some type of filter over it or whatever and clear it up or whatever. But how you telling me they had a grainy video that you couldn't even tell it was him, and then now they got this crisp, clear copy 30 years later? How'd that happen? Then the girl said it wasn't her, and now she's saying it's her. That's perjury. But she got immunity, so how can you say it wasn't you and then it was you, and the jury supposed to believe you what this time? Because why? When last time you said it wasn't you, but now you saying it's you. Why are they supposed to believe you now? Was you telling the truth the first time, or are you telling the truth this time?
In fact, she gave a statement saying it wasn't her video. Now she says she lied back then. It is her in the video. Her mother also came to court and said it's her in the video. So, sometimes you can't get anywhere with a certain count on a case. And that might be the case here. And the question is just, what can you do to mitigate the overall damage in the bigger picture?
So that what it may be looking at now. Of course, Mr. Kelly, your client in the state case is facing decades in prison already for a conviction in New York. Kind of play this out, get into the weeds for me here. He faces similar charges, except on basically that he bribed the witness in a former trial. He subverted justice, but it's basically similar. The worst crimes are similar to what he's already been convicted of in federal court in New York. If he were to be found guilty, wouldn't these be served concurrently? Wouldn't they be served at the same time? What's the
That's up to
government's
the
game
judge,
here?
Brad. That's completely up to the judge. In any federal case, the judge has the discretion to make things concurrent or consecutive. Look, on the New York case, he got 30 years. He's going to be 81 or 82 years old when he gets out of jail. If he has to serve all of that time, maybe he'll be in his late 70s. I doubt if the 85-year-old judge in this case would pile on to that. Here's a man who has lost everything professionally and everything personally.
And I'm not out here what I'm about to say is not trying to defend R. Kelly in any way in this situation, but let's say that in 2019, when they locked him up for this because of that whole surviving R. Kelly thing, right? Let's say at that point in his life, he has finally been he finally got it. stop messing with young girls, young girls, right? Because most of the girls that he was dealing with outside of Azriel, who lied about her age, they all was in their 20s. They was young to him because he's 40, 50 now, but they was in a like only like really one of them was in their 20s. All the rest of them was in their 30s, right? So I say that to say, I think he kind of learned his lesson with teenage girls, young girls. You know what I'm saying? Like at that point in his life, right? This is just my thoughts. I'm not saying that's true, whatever. I don't know what that man was doing, right? I'm just saying from the observation, from the clear observation, standing outside, when you look at all the women that he was dealing with when he got locked up, it was only one person that was close to underage, and he thought she was of age, right? There were no young girls. You know what I'm saying? So what he had did in the past, even probably with that 2008 trial, that shit probably had him like, foo, yo, I'm done. I get it. I understand what y'all saying. I see it. I ain't messing with no young girls. I get it. So fast forward 2019, all the women that he's dealing with are of age, right? I said, now, Azriel lied about her age, you know what I'm saying? And he should have fucking stayed the hell away from her when she did. You know what I'm saying? But without Azriel in this equation, there's no case here. Unless they was gonna lock him up for herpes or whatever. You know, even though initially it was really no case, you know, the herpes is all based around surviving R. Kelly. That the Homeland Security saw it and decided to pursue it. But like as you can see, he's still really fighting something that happened over 20 something years ago. This case ain't about some shit that he did in the last 10 years. This case is about this sex tape that happened 30 years ago. The person that he is in 2019 ain't the fucked up young nigga that he was 30 years ago. Now, I'm not trying to erase his past, but it's kind of like the guy that murdered somebody and he goes to trial for it and he beats it for whatever reason. And then 20 years later, they say, nah, man, you killed that person, man. You know what I'm saying, man? You was wrong for killing that person, man. We know you did it. And then they charge you again for it. And this time they convict you on it. But they convict you on it by some other crime, kind of like O.J. Simpson. O.J. woke up in some room to steal some memorabilia and wound up doing goddamn 20 years for it, for a robbery. Now, we know people that rob all day. We see these people run up in these Louis Vuitton stores with the mask and everything. They grabbing everything up in there and they run out. They're not going to get 20 years for that shit. OJ got 20 years for that because they felt like he beat the body. This is what they doing with R. Kelly. So nobody is like the people that supporting R. Kelly. Nobody that's supporting R. Kelly is waving the flag saying it was all right for him to mess with young girls. What the support comes from the injustice and how they are locking them up. They trialed him for this, and it didn't. And the person that he is today is not running around chasing those little kids. But y'all take him after he really rehabilitated himself, you know what I'm saying? Put some young girl around him, lie about her age. Her parents lie about her age. And then the government use her later on to convict him as, which would be the only person that was underage, to make this whole picture for the public to not, so they can't, they matter of fact, what they did was they used a smoke blower on the public. It's all foggy, smoky, so the public can't see whatever. By the time the smoke clears, everything, 30 years. In this case, by the time smoke clears, he guilty. And you're not saying to yourself, well, damn, that man wasn't messing with no little girls when in 2019. How is he getting locked up now? Oh, nah, because, remember when he slept with the little girl back when he was 20 and she was 14? Nah, that's what they getting him for. Didn't they charge him for that? Yeah. But he beat it. But, now the girl saying it's her. She said it wasn't her before, but now she's saying it's her. 20 years later? Yeah. She's saying it's her now. And her mother. Didn't her mother say it wasn't her back in 2008? Yeah, but they changed their mind now. So when you look at it, from a moral compass, you say, yeah. And then you got all the people that seen the tape that's embedded in their mind, yeah, I saw that. I saw when he did that. Yeah, that was wrong. He got to go to jail today. I don't care if it's 50 years later. It ain't like the news reporter, the white guy said, yo, man, it's clear that he was having sex with an underage girl. Yeah, he was. 30 years ago. Not that it was right then. But y'all locked him up and y'all tried him for all that shit and everything. And y'all said not guilty. Y'all, the court of law, the jury, the people of America said he was not guilty. So now the same people that was involved can change their mind in federal court, not be perjured because they got immunity, and give everybody immunity to change their story. Everybody gets immunity to change their story. 30 years later. So at any given point in his life, they could have just pulled back up and said, nah, man, that 2008 shit, man, nah, man. Nah, you fought our little brother. Now you got to fight our big brother, man. My little brother, he was a punk back then. You know what I'm saying? Now, His little brother, he the big brother. You know what I'm saying? He the one, he in training. He say, now you gotta fight him now. And nigga like, yo, man, I ain't got no beef with y'all, man. That's when we was little niggas, when we was young, man. Nah, man, you gotta fight him, man. You gotta fight him. No, nah, you beat us up back in 2008. You gotta fight him today. Not only in New York, a place where he ain't even from. Yo, that shit is crazy, dog. He got 30 years in New York. He's not even from New York. Didn't live in New York during those cases, but slept with a girl in New York who claimed he gave herpes. He got 30 years in New York. He's not even from New York. He did that his own city, the one he won in. Now they gonna try to crucify him. And we all know they're talking about getting it consecutive together. Man, they probably will give R. Kelly 30 in Chicago after the 30 in New York. They may not run that concurrent together, whatever. Nah, they're gonna make him do both of them bids. They're gonna try to make him die in jail. Because if the judge do that, and he get an appeal and he beat the New York case and give all that time back, then his time will be short. But if this Chicago judge tack on to the New York case the time, and he turn around and beat the New York case in the appeal, instead of coming home, he'll still have the time in Chicago. So they ain't gonna do that. This is crazy, man. You could go back. Damn, yo. And they try to say that, don't judge me for who I am. Judge me from where I came from. So if R. Kelly really had shook that problem late in life, he is actually really going to jail for something that happened in 1990. What was that, 6? Like, I don't even know. That was like the 90s something. The tape ain't come out to the 2000s or something. But I'm just saying that the actual act of it was in the 90s. It's 30 years, man. Well, what's going on now is they called some witnesses. The defense, prosecution had rest in the case. And now the defense is up. Today they had off. They come back Tuesday morning with the defense calling more witnesses. They called, let me see the witnesses they called. I think I showed y'all the witnesses that they called.